Darkness pressed in like a living thing. Cold stone bit into Elira's knees as she lay crumpled on the dungeon floor, wrists shackled to the damp wall. The silence was deafening, save for a slow drip, drip, drip. Her breath was shallow, ragged. The taste of blood lingered in her mouth. She didn't remember how she was taken, only the forest, the black blur, and then nothing. A sudden flare of torchlight stabbed the blackness. Her eyes squinted, adjusting just as boots echoed off stone. A man emerged. Towering. Cloaked in black. His face was hidden behind a silver wolf mask, the firelight dancing on its gleaming edges. Elira's voice trembled. "Who are you?" The masked man didn't speak. He knelt slowly, the chain clinking between them. Then he leaned close, his breath brushing her cheek. "Mate," he whispered. Her heart thudded painfully. "No, no, I'm not." "Yes," he murmured. "Mine." Something ancient stirred inside her. Terror, and something deeper, older, calling. Elira tugged at the chains, the cold metal biting deeper into her wrists. "You're insane," she spat, her voice steadier than she felt. "Let me go." The masked man rose, his height imposing in the low torchlight. "You feel it," he said calmly. "Don't lie to yourself." The pull. "I feel nothing but disgust," Elira snapped. But inside her heart betrayed her with its quickened rhythm. He tilted his head, studying her like a predator considering its prey. "You've been marked, Elira." She flinched. "How do you know my name?" The man stepped closer. "Because your scent has haunted me for years. The stars chose, not I." She pressed against the wall as if it could swallow her whole. Her body trembled, not from fear alone, but something deeper. Her wolf stirred. No, 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 she wasn't one of them, was she? The air between them pulsed. Elira's breath caught as something old and unspoken slithered through the space. The scent of earth, pine, and smoke swirled around him. His voice dropped into a rasp. "You're awakening." "I'm not like you," she whispered. "I'm not one of your kind." The man's hand lifted, but he didn't touch her. Instead, he traced the air just inches from her skin. Her breath hitched as heat spread through her veins, awakening senses long dormant. "Elira," he murmured, "you've been asleep your whole life. The moment you crossed my border, the bond began." She turned her face away, trying to steel herself against the truth unraveling around her. Her whole life had been a lie. Her lineage, her dreams, were they all just fragments of this? The chains clinked softly as her strength returned, slow, primal, and her eyes glowed faintly gold. He stood still, as though waiting for her to realize. Elira's chest rose and fell in sharp bursts. "What do you want from me?" The man's reply was soft. "For you to remember." "Remember what?" she growled. "The way your soul howled for mine before you were ever born. The stars inked it in blood and moonlight. You are mine, and I am yours." She shook her head. "You speak of fate like it's a gift. I call it a curse." He reached into his cloak and drew out an old pendant, twisted silver, etched with runes. He held it before her, and as the firelight hit it, a ghost of a memory flickered behind her eyes. A lullaby. A silver wolf. A whisper in the night. She gasped. "I've seen that." "Yes," he whispered, "in your dreams. Because I've called to you for years." She couldn't breathe. The world tilted, not from fear, but from a truth too vast to contain. Memories surged, hidden whispers from childhood, a wolf's cry echoing in dreams, her body burning with fever on every full moon. "I don't want this," she whispered. "I never asked for this." "I didn't either," he said, the words tinged with something wounded. "But we don't choose the bond. We only survive it, or let it consume us." Elira looked at her shackles. Not just chains. Symbols. Suppressants. Her voice cracked. "Let me out." The man paused. "I'll come with you," she said. "But not in chains." The silence hung thick. Then, slowly, he moved. With one twist, the shackles clattered to the stone. Elira rubbed her wrists, stared up at the man who'd whispered her fate, and took her first free breath. But freedom was just the beginning. Elira's legs trembled as she stepped beyond the dungeon threshold. The torchlit hall stretched before her like the throat of some ancient beast, silent and watchful. The masked man walked ahead, his pace deliberate, never glancing back. But she felt the tether between them tightening with every step. A bond she hadn't accepted but couldn't deny. "Where are you taking me?" she asked, her voice thin. "To the edge of the keep," he replied. "Where the truth lies buried." "And what truth is that?" He paused, turned slightly. "Yours." The corridor narrowed, old stones whispering secrets from centuries past. Her heart pounded, not from fear of him anymore, but fear of herself, of what she might be. "I had a life," she said, trying to recall her village, the simplicity, her mother's lullabies. They felt like fading echoes. "You had a cage," he corrected, "woven with lies to keep your truth buried." Elira looked down. Maybe. He was right. They emerged into a forgotten chamber beneath the keep, a shrine cloaked in dust and moonlight. Broken statues lined the room, all carved with wolves in human form. In the center stood a cracked mirror framed in bone and silver, half shrouded with velvet. The masked man stopped. "This is where your memory ends, and where your blood begins." Elira stepped closer, her reflection fragmented. Her hand hovered just above the surface. "I don't want to see what's inside," she admitted. He gently pulled off his glove and reached out. "Then let me show you." Their fingers touched the mirror together. In a heartbeat, the world shifted. Visions flared, an infant howling beneath a blood moon, a mother crying in secret, a cloaked figure carrying a child through rain. And then her face, older, locked in chains. Always in chains. Elira gasped and staggered back. "It was me. All of it." "Yes," he said. "They feared what you'd become." Elira sat on the steps of the shrine, her head in her hands, the memories clawing through her mind like wildfire. "My mother knew," she whispered. "She knew what I was." "She tried to protect you," the man said softly. But protection became imprisonment. His voice no longer held the edge it once had. It was tender. "I hated her for lying to me," Elira said. "But she thought hiding me would keep me safe." "Love and fear often walk hand in hand," he replied. She looked up, searching his masked face for the man beneath. "Why do you hide?" He hesitated. Then slowly, deliberately, lifted the mask. Beneath it was not a monster, but a man. Scarred. Worn. Beautiful in a way that only pain could shape. Elira's breath caught. His eyes glowed amber. Familiar. Dot. Her wolf stirred again. "You were in my dreams," she whispered. "Before the dungeon. Before everything." He nodded. "I always come to you, when the bond grows near." Elira rose slowly, gravity heavy with awakening. Her hands still trembled, but her gaze didn't falter. "What happens now?" she asked. "That depends," he said, stepping closer. "Will you run, or ride?" "I don't know who I am," she admitted. "You will," he replied. "But first, you must reclaim what was taken." He turned and gestured toward a sealed stone archway. Carved into it was a sigil, a wolf howling at a crescent moon, wrapped in thorned vines. "What's beyond there?" she asked. "Your legacy." Elira approached. The air grew colder. Her fingertips brushed the sigil, and it pulsed with light. The door groaned open, dust spiraling into the still air. Beyond it lay a chamber of armor, scrolls, blades, and a mural of a great white wolf battling a shadowed beast. At its center was a woman, with golden eyes. "She was a warrior," Elira whispered. "She was you," he answered. Elira walked into the chamber, the air thick with the scent of old magic and forgotten bloodlines. Her fingers grazed the wall, tracing the painting of the warrior wolf, her own face mirrored in ancient pigment. I was meant for more than silence, she whispered. The man stood behind her, quiet, watching. She turned to a pedestal where a blade lay, curved like a crescent moon, etched with her family's crest. As she lifted it, a shiver ran through her spine. It fit her hand perfectly. I don't want to run anymore, she said. But I don't know how to fight. You don't need to know, he said. You only need to begin. The moment stretched as her heartbeat synced with the pulse of the blade. The sigil on the stone floor beneath her feet lit up, marking her acceptance. She turned to him. Then teach me. He bowed his head. With every breath I have. And so, the chained girl took her first step toward becoming a warrior. The forest beyond the keep was thick with mist and memory. Elira moved through the undergrowth, blade at her side, the man now walking beside her without mask or name. He hadn't told her yet, and she hadn't asked. Not yet. Her senses were sharpening. She could hear the heartbeat of a rabbit yards away, feel the tremble in the ground when birds took flight. Why are we here? She asked. To train, he said. The bond has awakened, but so have those who want to kill it. They'll come for me? They already have. A low growl echoed from the trees. Elira's hand went to her weapon, heart thudding. Not all wolves are allies, he murmured. From the shadows emerged a pair of glowing red eyes. Then another. Then 3 more. Elira's blood ran cold. What are they? Strays, twisted by dark blood and old hatred. They sense the mate bond. They want to break it. As they stepped into the light, jaws dripping and bones jutting beneath corrupted skin, Elira raised her blade and said, "Let them try." Steel clashed with fang. The first wolf lunged, and Elira spun instinctively, her blade singing through the air. It met flesh with a flash of silver. Blood, black and steaming, splattered across moss and bark. Another came from behind. She ducked, rolled, came up swinging. She was fast. Too fast for someone untrained. Her wolf was fighting too, moving through her limbs. Behind her, the scarred man fought with brutal grace, hands shifting into claws, eyes glowing like fire. He tore through one of the creatures with terrifying ease, but not without cost. Blood bloomed on his shoulder. "Elira," he called. She turned, slicing through the final beast just as it leapt. It crumpled mid-air, falling lifeless at her feet. Silence returned like a sudden breath. She stood panting, surrounded by the dead, the blade slick in her grip. She looked at him. "I didn't know I could." "You were born to," he said. And for the first time she believed it. They sat in silence beneath an ancient tree, wounds dressed in moss and linen. The light had drained her, but it had lit something too, a fire she couldn't ignore. "Why do they want to stop the bond?" Elira asked quietly. "Because it restores balance," he said. "And those who thrive in chaos fear balance." She traced a scar on his forearm. "How many times have you fought for this?" "More than I can count. But I never found you, not truly, not like this." Elira leaned back. "You said we've met before, in dreams." "And lives," he said. "Every lifetime we're drawn back, always torn apart, always fighting to remember." She shivered. "Then why remember at all?" He met her eyes, amber burning. "Because the only thing stronger than the curse is the bond." The truth landed heavy. She wasn't just fighting for her freedom now. She was fighting for every version of herself that had ever loved and lost him. That night the dreams came harder. Fire. Law. Screams. A child torn from her mother. A silver wolf, howling at a burning moon. Elira jolted awake, gasping, sweat clinging to her skin. She was alone in the camp. The fire burned low. She stood barefoot in the moss, searching the shadows. "Where are you?" she whispered. Then she saw him. At the edge of the clearing, kneeling before an ancient stone covered in claw marks and dried blood. She approached quietly. "What is this place?" He didn't look back. "My brother died here, protecting the last bond pair." Her breath caught. "I failed them," he said, "and I swore I'd never let another die." She crouched beside him. "You carry too much." He looked at her then, sorrow written deep in the lines of his face. "You're not just a mate, Elira. You're the end of the curse, or the start of the war." She took his hand. "Then let's fight. Together." Dawn broke red over the horizon. They stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the valley below, his world, now hers too. The scarred man finally spoke his name. "Cale." Elira let the name settle in her chest. "Cale," she echoed, like tasting something once lost. He smiled. Not with his mouth, but with his eyes. "We leave at dusk. There's a gathering of elders. They must recognize the bond. And if they don't, they'll try to sever it." Her throat tightened. "Can they?" He hesitated. "Only if we let them." Elira stepped closer. "Then, we don't." Cale placed a hand to her heart. "Then be ready, because they will try to break us, from outside and within." The wind stirred, tousling her hair. She looked at the sky, no longer searching for escape, but for strength. Elira whispered, "Let them come." And the wind carried her voice into the valley, like a promise. Elira and Cale entered the circle of elders beneath the watch of the ancient moonstone spires. 12 cloaked figures sat in a ring, each bearing a crest of an old house. As they stepped into the light, murmurs rose like wind through dead leaves. "She bears the bond," one hissed. "Too late," said another. "It should have been severed at birth." Elira's jaw clenched. "I came to prove myself, not to be condemned." An elder in blue-gray robes stood. His eyes, pale as ash, pierced her. "Then tell us your lineage." "I don't know it," Elira said. "But I carry its weight." Gasps rippled through the circle. Cale stepped forward, defiant. "She carries more than blood. She carries fate." Another elder growled, "You would risk the prophecy again? After what happened to your brother?" Elira's gaze sharpened. "What prophecy?" The oldest of them all stood, voice trembling. "The mate with golden eyes will break the curse, or break the world." And then all eyes turned to her. The elders murmured spells beneath their breath, a hum of judgment vibrating through the air. Elira stood tall, though the ground felt like it might swallow her whole. "We must test her," said the eldest. "Let the blood answer." A blade appeared, old obsidian, wrapped in braided bone. Cale stepped forward. "No, the ritual could kill her." Elira touched his arm. "Let me." She stepped into the circle. One of the robed figures sliced her palm. Blood dripped onto the stone, seeping into the carved wolf sigil. The ground trembled. A projection burst forth, her mother younger, crying as she handed baby Elira to a hooded figure. "Keep her hidden. She must never awaken." Elira gasped. "She knew. She gave me away." The vision shifted, Cale as a boy, watching a burning village, his brother dying in his arms. "I was meant to forget," Elira whispered. "And I was meant to find you," Cale replied, his voice breaking. The truth burned brighter than the bond. After the ritual, Elira sat alone at the cliff's edge, her thoughts a storm. Her entire life, fabricated, hidden, stolen. Her mother hadn't died. She had erased herself from Elira's world. Cale approached, silent as always, but this time she spoke first. "You knew," she said, not accusing, just broken. "I knew enough," he said. "But the full truth, I only saw it tonight." Elira stared into the abyss. "She gave me away, to keep me from this. And still, it found you. I don't know what hurts more, being forgotten, or being chosen by fate I never asked for." Cale knelt beside her. "Then don't fight fate, break it, rewrite it." A hawk screamed overhead. A storm gathered on the horizon. Elira rose, the cliff wind in her hair. I want to find her. Cale blinked. Your mother. Elira nodded. If she's alive, I deserve the truth. From her lips. And somewhere in the woods below, a pair of eyes, familiar, watched her from the shadows. They followed the pull. Elira could feel it now, the thread linking her not just to Cale, but to her blood. Through woods ancient and cursed, they moved in silence, guided by instinct. At the heart of the forest stood a cabin, choked in vines, the door hanging on one hinge. Elira hesitated. She's inside, Cale said. Elira stepped forward. The air thickened with memory. Inside, a woman sat at a cold hearth, fingers tracing a worn lullaby charm. You came, the woman whispered without turning. Elira froze. You're real. The woman turned slowly. Her eyes were the same, gold as Elira's. You were never meant to be caged. I did what I had to. Tears filled Elira's eyes. You abandoned me. I saved you, her mother said. But I was wrong. They found you anyway. Cale entered behind her. They always do. The woman stood. Then it's time we stop running. Elira whispered. I want the truth, all of it. Elira's mother opened an old chest buried beneath the hearthstone. Within it, scrolls, a blood-soaked crest, and a dagger with their family sigil, one half of a twin set. You were born under eclipse, her mother began. A twin soul to the last bonded line. You are the last unbroken blood. Elira's hands trembled as she picked up the dagger. They will come for you again, her mother said. Not just to break the bond, but to steal it, to use it as a weapon. Cale crossed his arms. They'll have to go through both of us. Her mother met his gaze. And if she dies, the curse ends. Elira looked between them. I'm not dying. Then be ready to become what you were born to be, her mother said, stepping forward and placing her hand on Elira's chest. A daughter of wolves, a breaker of bloodlanes. Outside, the wind shifted. War was coming. And this time, Elira would meet it head-on. The mountain fortress burned red against the dusk sky. The bond hunters had arrived. Elira stood atop the high ridge, her cloak flaring in the wind, the moonblade glowing faintly at her side. Below, a sea of torches moved like a serpent through the valley. Silent, organized, lethal. They'll come through the east gate first, Cale said, breath sharp from running. That's where they sent you strongest. I won't run, Elira said. Not anymore. Her mother appeared beside her, hair braided tight, eyes hard. They'll try to break the bond while it's still new, while it's still fragile. Elira gripped the blade tighter. Then we show them how strong it is. She turned to Cale. You and I, together. He nodded, gold eyes gleaming. We end it here. The horns sounded from the valley, low, war-drenched. And with that, the first wave began to climb. The gates shattered under a wave of force. Elira moved like water through the chaos, every motion guided by instinct and something older. Her blade clashed with steel, her cry splitting the air like thunder. Cale fought beside her, claws blade fury. He moved not to protect her, but with her. Equals. Bonded. One hunter lunged for Elira's heart. She turned mid-spin, parrying and driving her dagger into his chest. Another tried to circle behind. Cale crushed him against the wall. A woman in red armor appeared from the smoke, taller than the rest, her eyes like obsidian. She hissed, "The bond dies tonight." She struck Elira with a blow that sent her flying across the stone. "Elira!" Cale roared, diving between her and the enemy. Blood pooled at her lips. Her ribs screamed. But the bond surged. She rose. And her eyes burned brighter than the moon. Elira's body pulsed with energy not her own, but not entirely foreign either. The bond had cracked open something buried deeper than flesh. She raised her blade, and it howled with her. Moonlight itself bent toward her form. The red-armored warrior lunged again, faster this time. Elira met her head-on, their weapons colliding with a shockwave that split the ground beneath them. "Who are you?" the warrior gasped, faltering. "I am what you feared," Elira said, her voice layered with a power not hers alone. "The end of your bloodlust." With a scream, Elira unleashed a wave of silver flame from the blade, engulfing the warrior. When the fire cleared, ash fell like snow. The rest of the invaders faltered. Many fled. Some dropped their weapons. Kale grabbed her hand, panting, eyes wide. "What did you just do?" Elira looked down at the blade in her grip. "I remembered who I am." Night fell like a shroud, quiet and surreal. The battlefield lay silent. Only the crackle of dying flames remained. Elira sat on a broken pillar, her blade resting beside her, glowing softly. Kale knelt before her, pressing a cloth to her bleeding side. "And you nearly died," he whispered. "I nearly lived," she replied, managing a tired smile. Her mother emerged from the shadows, her expression unreadable. "You've changed. The blade. The fire. That wasn't taught." Elira nodded. "It was remembered." Kale met her gaze. "You accessed the ancestral line. That power, it lives in you now." "I felt them," Elira said, "the ones who came before. I wasn't alone." For the first time she saw it. What they had feared. Not her power, but her potential. Kale took her hand. "It's over." Elira looked to the stars. "No, it's just begun." And in the dark, something unseen shifted. Later, in the silence of the aftermath, Elira stood alone before the ancient mirror in the shrine. The surface was calm now, no visions, no storms. Only her reflection. But it was not the girl who had been chained. This woman stood taller, eyes sharper, power coiled behind every breath. Kale appeared behind her. He didn't speak, only stepped beside her and waited. "I thought breaking the curse would make me feel free," she said. "And does it?" "No," she answered. "Because freedom isn't the end, it's the beginning." Kale placed a hand on the mirror. "Then let this be the last time you see yourself as anything less than what you are." She met her own eyes. Not Elira the prisoner. Not Elira the lost. Elira, the Alpha. She whispered, "We begin again." And from the mirror, her reflection smiled. Smoke had cleared. The skies returned to their quiet, star-strewn canopy. Elira stood before the circle of elders once more, but everything had changed. The air felt different now, charged, reverent. The same elders who had once spoken in whispers of severance now knelt in silence. She carried no crown, no title, only power, earned and blood remembered. An elder finally stood. "Curse is broken, the bloodline restored." Elira stepped forward. "Then, what happens to me?" "You are the first of the new order," the elder said. "Not bound by the old ways, you will lead." Kale's gaze met hers from across the circle. No command passed between them, no order, only understanding. "I never wanted to lead," Elira said. "But you were born to change everything," Kale murmured. And now, for the first time, she was no one's prisoner. No one's secret. She was her own reckoning. The valley breathed again, quiet and full of life. Wolves howled, not in mourning, but in awakening. The pack returned. Elira walked among them, no longer an outsider. Pups sniffed her hands, elders bowed their heads, and Kale kept close, a presence of gravity more than guard. "I remember this place," she whispered. "In pieces. I've dreamed it since I was a child." Kale smiled. "Because it's always been yours." They reached the sacred stone, the place where the first bond had been made. The runes pulsed faintly under her fingers as she touched it. She turned to the pack, now gathered around in a wide ring. "I am not what they feared. I am what they forgot. I do not lead because I am chosen. I lead because I choose to rise." The pack howled in answer. The sound echoed through the cliffs, ancient and reborn. That night, beneath a sky awash in aurora light, Elira sat by the ceremonial fire. Around her, warriors shared laughter, food, and memory. The pain hadn't vanished, but it no longer defined them. Cale approached, holding a carved piece of wood. "A gift," he said softly. She took it. A pendant. The shape of a wolf, intertwined with a crescent moon. "It was my brother's," he said. "I want you to have it." Elira's fingers trembled. "I don't want to replace him." "You're not," Cale said. "You're what he fought for." She tied the pendant around her neck, its weight settling over her heart like truth. "Do you ever wonder," she asked, "what would have happened if I'd never been taken?" Cale smiled. "Then, I never would have found you." She laughed, a real sound, rising into the night. For once, the fire didn't feel like destruction. It felt like home. Morning came softly, golden light spilling through the trees. Elira walked the ridge trail alone, her thoughts quiet. From behind, footsteps approached, light, familiar. "It never really ends, does it?" she asked. Cale fell into step beside her. "Peace is a rhythm, not a finish line." She nodded. "There's still so much to fix. The broken clans, the lost bloodlines, the scars. And you don't have to do it alone." They reached a summit, overlooking the distant lands. Green stretched as far as the eye could see, unmarred by fire or fear. "What if I fail?" Elira whispered. "Then you fail fighting for something real," Cale answered. "But I don't think you will." She turned toward him. "Do you feel it still? The bond?" He smiled. "Always." Their hands met, fingers weaving without need for words. The silence between them, earned and sacred. At the edge of the lake, beneath the weeping willows, Elira knelt. She cupped the cool water in her hands and stared at her reflection, not fragmented, not hidden. Whole. One. Behind her, Cale waited, a respectful distance away. She whispered to the water, "Thank you for chaining me." The water rippled gently. "Because in that darkness, I found who I am, not a prisoner, not a curse." She stood, dripping hands brushing down her thighs, her blade strapped to her back. The moon hung full in the sky, white and eternal. Cale approached. "They'll write songs about you." Elira turned, her voice soft but sure. "Let them write. I'll still be here, leading." As they walked back to the village, wolves rose from the woods and followed. Silent, dull, loyal, dull. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. The past had burned away. What remained was power. The seasons had turned. Spring whispered through the forest with blossoms blooming where scars once lay. Children played near the village edge, laughter replacing what once had been silence and fear. Elira stood beneath the great tree, its roots deep with memory. A new sigil had been carved there, hers. A wolf wrapped in flame and crescent. She touched the mark, and it hummed beneath her palm. Cale approached with quiet steps, now wearing no blade, no armor. "The elders are calling it the era of bond." She smiled faintly. "Let them name it what they will." He stepped closer. "You've brought peace, Elira. You kept the bond alive." "No," she replied. "We forged it anew." She looked out over the field where wolves and humans worked together, no longer divided. She had not asked for this destiny, but she had earned it. And finally she was no longer someone's prophecy. She was her own. Inside the old keep, now rebuilt with stone and ivy, Elira taught the young ones how to read the stars. She held the same scrolls her mother had once buried, unrolling their truth for the next generation. A small girl raised her hand. "Is it true you were in chains?" Elira's smile didn't falter. "Yes, I was. But that was not the end of my story." "What happened?" She knelt before them. "I was chained, and then I was awakened. And then, I chose." The children leaned forward, eyes wide. "I chose to rise, even when everything told me to hide. Cale watched from the doorway, arms folded, pride glowing in his quiet stance. The children clapped as she finished, their howls playful but bold. Alira rose, scroll in hand. She didn't speak of war or blood. She taught them to remember, and to never be afraid of the truth. That evening, Cale and Alira returned to the ridge where it had all begun. The sky was violet, painted with the last blush of dusk. The wind was quiet, but alive, like it listened. She turned to him. You never told me what you saw when the bond first formed. He looked out across the valley. I saw you. Not just as you were, but as you'd become. She smiled, leaning against him. I saw you too, behind the mask, long before you took it off. He touched the pendant around her neck, the one that had once been his brother's. You wear it better. I wear it for all of us. A silence stretched, not awkward, but sacred. Their bond no longer burned with urgency. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Gentle, steady, forever. And as the stars blinked into view, neither of them spoke again. They simply stayed. Storms would come again, Elira knew it. She watched as riders trained in the field, young wolves shifting beside them in tandem. The village had become a haven, but also a shield. She stood beside her mother now, the years softening their once distant bond. You did it, her mother said. No, we did, Elira corrected. Her mother placed a weathered hand on her shoulder. You've made this a home. I want them to never know chains, Elira whispered. They won't. Elira exhaled, then turned as Cale approached, holding a piece of parchment. Scouts found a symbol, etched into the southern cliffs. Elira took the note. Her smile faded. The crescent crown. Cale's jaw tensed. You know them. They were the first to break the bond, long before us. A pause. Then we're not done yet, Elira said, fire rising once more in her gaze. Night fell. A single lantern burned in the center of the keep. Alira stood alone in the shrine once more, now overgrown with vines and life. She placed her hand against the mirror. No longer afraid. No longer lost. From the reflection, her past selves appeared faintly, chained, fighting, breaking, rising. And then, all faded but one, the woman she had become. Cale entered behind her, silent. She turned to him, eyes soft. You once whispered mate, she said. In the dark. Cale nodded. I did. She stepped toward him, voice quiet as the stars above. Whisper it again. He leaned close, his voice brushing her skin. Mine. Elira closed her eyes. Not to surrender, but to remember. The girl in chains was gone. The alpha had risen.